It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on the front page of Nigerian newspapers. And I begin with this Nigeria newspaper. The major story here says, "Don't use force on Nigerian coupists." Don't use force on Nigerian coupists. And some riders, Clark, Adebanjo, Iwayan, Islamic clerics, tell Tinubu, Group 6 Ecowas court protocols against sub-regional leaders. Recall that Ecowas heads of states will be meeting sometime later today to decide on how to move after the first sanctions imposed on the coupists disobeyed, or rather refused to adhere to the sanctions imposed on them. And so we will be seeing what the decisions will be moving on from there later today. Now to the first newspaper. Niger debacle worsens as ex-rebel leader moves against coupists, launches anti-junta move, vows to ensure Bazoum's reinstatement. All right, you find all the details on the front page of First News newspaper. To the leadership newspaper, Niger crisis, Islamic Council Catholic bishops warn against military invasion. Niger crisis, Islamic Council Catholic bishops warn against military invasion. Details on the front page of the leadership newspaper. And to the Nigerian Tribune, as ECOWAS leaders meet today over Niger, Southern Middle Belt leaders, Catholic bishops, Islamic clerics, Northern NGE warn against military action. All right, you find the details on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. And on the Punch newspaper, still talking about the Niger crisis. Niger, UN, AU, ECOWAS meet on next move. NSCIA warns federal government. You find the details on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Kemi.
Right, and the high-level talks on the Niger matter is also dominating the Guardian newspaper. As we see now, it calls its lead story "A Long Road to Peace," as ECOWAS coup leaders maintain positions. Of course, so many are expectant of how today's meeting will pan out. We'll see how that goes. Even on business day, as we see next, it's also talking about the Nigerian development, especially how the former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi's visit to Niger Republic reveals Nigeria's soft power. It calls it Nigeria's soft power, following the former monarch's visit to the West African nation. And on the Daily Sun, it's still about the coup in Niger, with cardinals and bishops, as well as editors, warning against military action as among the options before ECOWAS and its partners. On Nigeria News Direct, the lead story is headlined, "Cost of Governance, Nigerians Fume," as Senate President Akpabio announces holiday allowance for senators, and some Nigerians on record there lamenting recklessness of the lawmakers amid groaning in the land. And on Daily Independent, it's talking about a further Naira devaluation seen as Naira exchanges for 917 to the dollar, 917 Naira to the dollar, with a looming further Naira devaluation seen. That's what Daily Independent is spotlighting. And analysts are also reportedly saying that the federal government may be forced to review forex liberalization policy. And on Daily Trust, it's still about the fall of the Naira, or the current situation regarding the Naira, which is inching towards 1,000 to the dollar at parallel market, selling for 925 Naira in Kano and 917 in Abuja. And here in Lagos, it is 890 Naira to $1. That's all on Daily Trust. And finally is the Daily Times. Why Nigeria's agro products are rejected abroad. Experts there proffering insights on the matter and the way forward. Veronica.
All right, Kemi, let's look at this story that is on dominating the papers this morning, talking about the Niger debacle and the high-level meeting that we'll be holding later today as a result of the talks that have broken down. Recall that the UN, the US, the AU, Ecowas has sent delegation, and those talks broke down, and that came after there was sanctions imposed, and the defiant junta, military junta, did not budge despite the sanctions. Now the heads of states or governments of the Ecowas will be meeting later today to have a conversation on what their next move will be. Recall that Nigerians have been wondering, now that these sanctions was defied, what is the next direction the Ecowas will be moving? And there has been calls that a military action should not be the way to go. Having a conversation, a diplomatic action instead is the way forward. Recall that the President, Ajurin Gelale, made a statement that there was a sanction on those supporting the coup in Niger, and that will be effected by the CBN, and on countries that are supporting the coup in Niger. That statement was made the day before yesterday. And now the meeting will be held today to see how they can consolidate on that and whether there might be further sanctions as it is. But there has been criticisms with regards to the steps being taken by ECOWAS with regards to the sanctions. There are those who have said ECOWAS was hasty. Recall that the Arewa Consultative Forum, which is the governors around the Northeast also, alongside the Arewa Consultative Forum, have raised concerns with regards to how the sanctions shouldn't be the way to go because of the attendant impact on those communities around Niger. We know how closely knitted and how close the borders are with countries or states in Nigeria as well as Niger. So we are looking forward to what the conclusion will be later today. Statements coming out of this meeting, high-level meeting, when ECOWAS, the UN, AU meets later on today.
Indeed, so many are expected, and the fact that it's also, a multilateral meeting, so to speak. The UN will be represented, African Union will be represented, and of course the leaders within ECOWAS, within the West African region, are going to be on ground here in Nigeria, in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, to deliberate on these matters. And interestingly, what diplomats or what people who had been sent, representatives from the region and even the American nation, what they couldn't achieve, so far in terms of gaining access to the coup leaders. We also, understand, as we have seen in some of the papers this morning, that a former monarch, Mohammed Lamido Sanusi, was able to achieve in terms of speaking with
opening the doors,
and
for conversation.
Absolutely, and the pictures, even though we don't know much, but at least he went there to brief the president on the matter, and the picture says it all. Lamido Sanusi in a picture with the coup leader General Chiani, and it also makes me recall one of our guests, I believe yesterday, who said, perhaps we have gone too far. We have, entered each other, pardon my straight language. We have, really, really gone too far, talking about the relations between Nigeria and Niger. It's sisterly. We're talking about people even marrying,
Yeah, because of how close our borders are.
Absolutely. And even going on, some people have also talked about the generosity that the Nigerian Republic had even shown refugees from Nigeria, those reeling from the insurgency in the Northeast. We have a substantial chunk of them who are seeking refuge being provided by Niger. So an analyst was saying yesterday that this is something that one can, in Nigeria and, other concerned countries can, make a call, especially in Nigeria. There are people we can call. So many of these soldiers even came for training in the country, in Nigeria. And that, from what we hear, according to Sanusi Lamido, is what he used to gain access to them. He said nobody sent him, the government didn't send him, but they are aware he went on to Niger and he was able to gain access. And according to him, again, he says, it's also showing that this is something that the government cannot handle alone.
Absolutely.
People's, from across various divides, can also use their means, because we're talking about global peace, regional peace, and there's still a foe. There's a common foe, which is, the terrorists, who are manipulating, using the Sahel region now to execute crime. And then there's also the foe that many perceive, from outside the Western world too. So now is not the time for us to be at loggerheads with each other, because we are all members of the same region. So it's also good that Burkina Faso and Mali, who were also given, we are with the Nigerian Republic on the coup, it's also good that they too will be in attendance today. We don't know if Niger will be represented. Perhaps maybe their diplomats are not exactly the leaders. We don't know how, but the fact that it appears to be, getting larger to show that, it's diplomacy we're talking about after all, and all hands need to be on deck. Everyone needs to
Absolutely.
be on the table.
The matter of all hands being on deck, recall that Ajurin Gilali had said that there were widening consultations as it is. And obviously with the former Emir Sanusi Lamido's move, we see that consultations are actually going beyond the regular persons that we know. Right. People who wield that level of influence is what we are seeing now. And that was a good step to take from my perspective, that the doors obviously have been opened now, and we hope that the doors won't be shut any time soon. And now that ECOWAS make good use of this door that has been opened to them to have conversations, because a lot of persons have said military actions is not the way to go. And so we wait to see how the conversation will go, such that we wouldn't have the doors shut against ECOWAS, and every move to ensure any level of diplomacy is achieved at the end of the day. I keep recalling the videos I saw of trucks of food items, across the border lines of both sides, Nigeria and Niger. Food items wasting away, food that could have reached, on account of the border closure, that could have gotten across to some other persons who are in dire need. These are businesses of persons, who are running businesses across the board on both ends. And it's not really healthy. I'm just speaking an aspect now. The impact it has had among the several, because there are those that I was watching a video where one of the truck drivers was saying that he's been there for days. He cannot, access anything as it stands. He's exhausted. The money's on him and all of it. And then there are those, he was expecting to go deliver these goods, make some money and return. So it's just a complex case now. Now that we have the doors open, we make good use. ECOWAS makes good use of the access that it has as it stands.
Absolutely, Veronica. And we also heard of perhaps cracks, and it also reflects or resonates with positions made by some observers who say it's not correct to say that all of the Nigerian people are on all fours with the coup in Niger, because now not just human rights observers, not just democracy lovers who are outraged by the soldiers' influx again into the corridors of power. We're also seeing former rebel leaders, at least going by what the reports are saying. We're seeing former rebel leaders also saying they will fight for the release and the comeback of President Bazoum, who still has not been seen. He still remains in custody in his house. So interesting all the way.
Let's wait to see what comes out of that high-level meeting later today.